So on the north side of the workshop here, we've got this old fence line that runs across here. And it's fairly wide, some it's like 20 feet wide. You can see all these tree limbs right here are actually rubbing up against the roof of the barn. And then when I look at my gutters, I've actually got trees growing out of the gutters. So what I want to do today is we are going to trim a bunch of these limbs off. We may cut some of these smaller trees out of here. And we've got a brand new implement for the tractor. It's going to help us clean it up. So what we got here is an Easton made bucket grapple, and it's 60 inches wide, so it's like perfect for the smaller tractor, about the same width as we look down. It's almost the same width as the tires. You can see it's already a little bit dirty. I got to play around with it yesterday. So if you guys aren't familiar with Easton made, they make commercial log splitters. They also make wood processors, and they're up in Canada is where they're made. And Andrew from Easton Made, he reached out and they just started making like attachments for skid steers and tractors. And he wanted to know if I could use a grapple. And I said, well, I didn't have one for the small tractor. I said, do you have a smaller one about 5 feet wide? And he said he did. So he ended up sending this to me so that I can demonstrate this out on the channel. So I referred to it as a bucket grapple earlier because that's the way it appears right now, but you can take these removable sides off of here and then it'll just look like a standard grapple, and you can fit long logs and brush through both sides, and that's the way I plan on using it. So let's go ahead, we'll take it up to the shop and we'll go ahead and take these sides off. Oh. Well, now that we got the sides removed, definitely looks more like a standard grapple. So this grapple is 1 foot smaller than my other grapple, but yet it weighs about 70 pounds more because of the way it's overbuilt. So this has 1/2 inch wide AR 400 tines on the bottom, and then the double grapple on top is 3/4 inch thick AR 400 steel for the grapples. And that's just a hardened abrasion resistant steel. This is just overbuilt and weighs more. So what that means for us is we need to add some weight to the back of the tractor to help balance everything out. So we need to go ahead and get the ballast box that we poured the concrete in the other day and get it all hitched up, and we should be ready to go. So I poured the concrete in here about a week ago. Just gonna go ahead and chip off the stuff around the edges. One of these days I need to get a scale. I'd love to know exactly how much this weighs now. But it'll give us the added weight we need. All right, I think we got everything ready, so let's go ahead. We'll start cutting all these limbs down. We don't want anything touching the side of the workshop, and we'd like to keep it several feet away if we can, because it won't take a year or two and it'll be touching again. All right, I've got the extension on here today, so this will be as high as I can reach. All right, I got all the limbs cut that I could reach with the pole saw. You can see we've got limbs from back there all the way up here and then all the way back here to the propane tank. Now if we look down the side of the building again, this looks way better, but you can see we still got limbs up there touching the roof, and that all comes off this one tree right here, goes up, both main branches come over the barn. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get out a ladder. I'm actually gonna get on the roof, and we're gonna trim those limbs back from the roof. And then once that's done, I think I'm just gonna fall that whole tree, because it's one of the trees that stick out the farthest and is closest to the workshop. And there's a nice big shade tree right behind it. So we'll get rid of this tree. We're gonna keep this nice big shade tree right there. And this tree's big enough, we'll be able to use some of it as firewood. So I got a pair of tennis shoes that have pretty good traction. This is what I wear on the roof to walk on that metal. All right, so the rest of this tree are these limbs right there, and they're really too far for me to try to reach out and get. So I think that's as good as I'm gonna get on the limbs. Now I gotta figure out how to fall that tree and not hit the workshop. So the weight of that tree is not in our favor. It's gonna wanna try to fall south. I want it to fall east, and if I did get it to fall east, I believe that there's still a tree limb up here that's in the way. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim a pretty good sized limb off of the big tree back here, and then we'll try to fall that tree. Success. Come on. Oh. Yes. Yes. All right, well that ended up working. I knew I was gonna probably have to help it fall in the right direction, but we didn't hit the barn. Well, if everything else goes bad today, at least this worked. Well, I got quite a mess of limbs and stuff here now. I'm gonna go ahead and cut them up into little smaller pieces. We'll start cleaning them up with the tractor. well, this looks a lot better now. Now when we look up, clear sky, nothing touching the workshop. Well, I think the only thing left to do over here is to clean out these gutters. That's never a fun job, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna try to do that real quick, and then afterwards, we're gonna run over to the log pile and see if we can move the log pile to the new location with the grapple. Well, there's my gutter. You can see we got some trees growing in it. Looks to be about an inch thick. All right, I made it to the end. You can see she's all cleaned out from here all the way down. So I think this was one of those jobs that most homeowners probably put off until it gets pretty bad. But actually, once I got started, this only took me about 15 minutes to do this side. And if I'm to be totally honest, that is the first time I've cleaned out this north side of the workshop. And it's been here for 4 years now. All right, the log pile is now moved to its new location. around the firewood shed's getting more and more cleaned up every day. So the new Grapple, after using it quite a bit more than I did the other day, there's a few things about this that I do like better than my other Grapple. So one thing has to do with the tines. The other Grapple has like serrations on it, and everything gets caught on it and doesn't want to fall out. This is nice and smooth, so when you do dump it, everything seems to slide out of it fairly easily. I do like that. You don't have to really fight it to get it to fall out. My other Grapple just has pins. Some of them just have some bolts going through it. When first look, you see this, you think, oh, it's just a bolt going through. No, it's actually a greasable pin that's going through here. That bolt is a greasable pin. And then up here, this is a greasable pin as well. Right here's a cover on it, and you can grease it. You can see the grease coming out. So there's greasable pins on the front. There's greasable pins on the back of the cylinder and on the hinge point. Yeah, I don't know, at least all the Grapples I've seen at auctions and the other one that I own, none of the hinge pins, none of those are greasable, and this one is. And I really like these 3/4 inch thick tines on the Grapple. My other one that I own, I think they're only like 1/2 inch thick. I think they're mild steel. They always bend. Like, I always got them all crooked. I've started welding more metal onto them to try to keep them straight. And with this one, I don't think I'm gonna have to worry about that. So I just want to say thank you to Easton Made for sending this out to us. It's definitely gonna come in handy. So at the beginning of the video, I said that we had been busy over the last few days. And one of the things I did is I cleaned up here around the firewood shed. You don't see any of the plastic IBC totes anymore. There used to be a couple over here. There was a bunch just laying out here in the yard. And I got those all cleaned up. I got them cut up and put in the dump trailer so I can haul them off to the landfill. And when Rebecca mowed the other day, she tried to mow as close to the firewood shed as possible. So we still got a few weeds in the back, but everything is looking a lot better. It's gonna make it a lot easier to tear this down and get it all cleaned up. I also spent about a half a day just cleaning up junk, getting it thrown in the dump trailer to take it to the landfill. You can see got quite a bit of junk in there, and believe it or not, most of that was up here by the house. So I still have the old bank barn to go through and see if I can find some junk to throw in there as well. I'm sure we'll have that trailer pretty full here in the next few days. So if you look here in the workshop, you can see that the round baler is gone. I did end up replacing the pickup teeth. Only ended up being 2 of these pickup teeth that were broken. Then I went through the whole machine, made sure everything was working the way it should, got it all cleaned up and put away. So Rebecca and I, we processed 14 more meat chickens. That emptied out the chicken tractor. And we've got those chickens we did the other day. They are in here cooling down in the fridge. We'll shrink wrap those in a couple days. The other chickens we processed, we got them shrink wrapped and frozen here in the freezer. So that's a total of 26 meat chickens we have processed so far. So there's another thing that Rebecca has been working on, and since we're processing meat birds, she started making chicken broth. And that's one thing we actually just ran out of. So in this stock pot here, completely full of chicken broth. We've got, you know, celery, onions, carrots. I think there's some fresh herbs from the garden in there. So this is the second batch of chicken broth that she made. The first batch of chicken broth is right here in these containers. Look how dark that is. We've got 3 1-gallon jugs, and then these are like half-gallon containers there. And so what we're doing there is that's been strained. It's got to cool down, and then the fat will come to the surface, and then we can take the fat off of it, and then we're gonna can it. So it'll probably get canned tomorrow, and then that other batch that she's making, it'll go a couple days, and it'll get canned later this week. So out here in the pasture, we mowed this area where we're raising the meat chickens. So now this electric netting is sitting on fresh cut grass. Hopefully it won't ground out as bad as it was earlier. And then in here, we've got the other batch of meat chickens moved into the chicken tractor. Now this last batch of chickens hasn't gone very well. I think we're down to 23 chickens out of this batch. So that means we've had like 6 die on us. So the last thing we did is we sorted out the sheep. So we've got all the female sheep together now. The weaning process is over. So all the females are there. All the ram lambs are over on that side. So like I said, we got quite a few things done over the last few days. Didn't record any of it, but it's definitely nice to be caught up on all those little things. So now that we got all the tree limbs cut away from the workshop, which that really needed to be done, now our priorities are going to be the firewood shed, getting it torn down, get the build site all cleaned and ready. And then the other thing will be the fence that we want to put out in the pasture. So I need to get pipes painted. I need to start driving posts in the ground out in the field. Those are probably the two things that I'm going to focus on here over the next couple weeks. So out here in the workshop, I'd like to do a little bit of organization. I've already been working on the other side of the shop. It's starting to look pretty good, but I don't want to show it to you just yet. But on this side, this is the only wall that is finished. So over here, right above this toolbox, I want to do mechanics tools. So it'll be like sockets and hammers, wrenches, all that stuff on the wall right there. And then over here above the metal rack, we've got all our chargers and batteries right there. So above it, I want to put all of like my power tools hanging on the wall right there. And I already have everything to do that. I bought it back in like around Father's Day when it was on sale. I just haven't got to it yet. So hopefully over the next few months, everything here in the workshop will get its own place, its own home. It'll be all stored away, nice and neat. Everything will be off the floor, so I have plenty of room. I can pull a vehicle in here and work on it. Plenty of room to work on the tractor, the Allis Chalmers tractor over here. And then I may make this side over here, I may make this more of the welding fabrication side, so that I've got plenty of space to do all of my projects, maybe even at the same time. But that's the goal, is to get everything organized up off the floor, and that way this winter I've got plenty of space in here to do all the things I want to do. But as far as today is concerned, I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.